So we touched upon Karma Yoga part, which gets started in the second chapter as a seed. And so quite a few stanzas were covered. A lot more is going to get covered in the third chapter, but essentially a lot of relevant information that one can apply in one's life is all talked about here. So a couple of the things that he starts with is, to first understand what is following a certain attitude towards your actions. And what those attitudes are gets discussed in a lot of detail. One of the first things that gets talked about is not being influenced by, my wants, my desires, selfish, you know, and or being influenced by others who give, a lot of positives from their experience about gaining something individually and you getting influenced by that. So he's just saying, warning us a lot about that. And then slowly goes into one of those beautiful stanzas in 47, which we chanted last time, which we started last time. So we will chant that and a couple of other stanzas now and go from there. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते सङ्गोत्स्वकर्मणि योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा धनञ्जय सिद्धसिद्ध्यो समो भूत्वा समत्वं योग उच्यते. So 47, just to recap, the intent, the what was being stressed in that was, to work. So all of us are here, in a body to work from the time we are born till the time we leave this body. So here he stresses a couple of things. Is, your right is to work, but not necessarily what comes as a result of that work. So a few things that come out of this, right? So here we have to understand that it's not that we are not going to plan. A plan is always done with a certain results in mind. So we are not talking about that. What he's referring to is that, getting caught up on this is the way the result should be, becoming feverish about it, being, anxiousness, fear, all those negative emotions. And as a result of what will happen, you don't put your full effort, right? Your focus is not there. The anxiety about, achieving a certain result deters you from doing your full potential on the particular work that you're doing. And that's what he's telling us earlier about. So that definitely fruits, it's fair to be expecting a certain thing, but not getting caught up on it. So basically what he says is, let that not be your only motive. What is the motive in any work, right? If you look at it, the motive is to learn something. You're achieving a certain skill, a certain experience, certain confidence, depending on the type of work it is, whether it's corporate or personal or seva, whatever it is, that work brings in a lot of things to one's throat. So look at that first. Second thing to ask yourself is that, every action has got a lot of inputs coming in. While we think that I have done something. Is that really the fact? The question. So Krishna is asking us, are you really the one who says, when you say you've done something, have you done it? So maybe an example would help. We all make coffee, those of us who drink coffee or tea, whatever it is, right? In the mornings. So I say I made the coffee and somebody says it's, very tasty, etc. I say, wow, I did it. So what all goes into the coffee making? It's a simple thing, but there are multiple ingredients, starting from milk, starting from the coffee, seeds itself, the grinding of it, how dark or how, medium it is, right? And then the milk that goes into it, the sugar or jaggery, the gas stove, the heat, so many things. And there's just the material part. And then there's a process of how it is done, isn't it? So in all of this, there is definitely a part of your contribution towards it. But then there are so many other things. You and I know that, if the milk is not proper, or if the sugar or jaggery that you're using is not proper, the taste of it can go, you know, not per your expectation, isn't it? So the thing is that there is lots of stakeholders, lots of factors that come into play in any action. This coffee is just a simple example. Whether we do something in the corporate life, whether we do something in our own personal lives, or we conduct a function, a marriage, or a birthday party, or whatever, hundreds of things that come into play. And yeah, definitely we might be anchoring at all of that, but definitely, you know, those factors also. So here to ask the question, a cow that gave the milk for the coffee, is it getting rewarded for the coffee? No, right? It is simply a contributor, right? The gas stove wala who gave you the gas, right? And then so if you look at everything, right, ultimately, we say we want everything to come to us. So here the key part of it is two things, right? One is not getting caught on the results not being peevish. Second thing is to realize is that there are lots of factors, and if there are lots of factors, the results may not be exactly the way I wanted it to be, because those factors also have a play in it, right? And so that is the second aspect of it. So if you do keep that in mind, then the third aspect of it is giving your 100% in that work. Now, the 100% can work only if you're not feverish. It doesn't work otherwise, right? How can I be giving 100% when my mind is all over the place, thinking about what will happen, what will happen? So when you're 100%, what is happening? You're in the present moment, you're putting a full effort, you're actually enjoying the work. So the action, the fun is actually in enjoying what you're doing rather than trying to look at what is coming, what is next, will this happen, will this not happen, right? And the other aspect to also think about here, right? All of us take for granted that I am acting. How much of us think how gifted we are, how blessed we are to do an action, right? It's not that everybody got to do the action that you did. I'm just taking about some, particular action that was given to you as a save activity or some project activity at work or something. There could have been many other people, but you were, given that responsibility to do it as a duty. So the fact that I have been entrusted with it means that, there is a blessing at some higher level that, and wants you to be the conduit to get that work done. And that has to be understood as a blessing, as a grace, right? So one is the results and the grace that comes into play there. Second thing is to really recognize the fact that even for me to be able to act itself is a blessing. And hence, if it is a blessing, shouldn't I give my 100% of it? Will I, if somebody, renowned, or somebody like a Guruji, or some, let's say the Prime Minister entrusts somebody with something, would you do less justice to it? You do your full justice to that work, right? So you give your 100% to it. That's what he's saying. So recognize that the importance of the duty, that it's a blessing. Second thing about giving your 100%, and enjoy the work results. They come, even if they are not exactly per your taste, you will still be able to handle it. Yeah, you might be a bit upset in the beginning that, it's not what I wanted, but you come out of it because you say, I've done everything that I could. That's ultimately what matters, right? So this is the crux of this particular. And he also stresses towards the last line in this one. Don't ever get caught on the fact that you should not do action. So what happens typically is that, right, when somebody hears, results are not governed by you only, and results can be not exactly for your taste, then one may have the tendency to not do that action. It's warning. You still act, So therefore, we are not going to be sitting like a tamasic person sitting, let things happen. I'll just not do anything. That is not the solution. So karma yoga, we are all here to do action. So day one till day end. You look at even the real life gurus. They are doing karma yoga every day. Every day they are acting. In fact, they do a lot more work than even I do. Right? So, so 48 words on which he builds on these some of these aspects of it. So the first thing is what is, you know, is maintaining some sense of a balance. Balance and what if the result of that action is a success or if it is a failure, I am okay with it. This word success and a failure is a very relative term. For for me, if let's say something is a success because there are certain parameters that gauge the success for me. For some people, it might be a failure, right? And you see this in the world today, right? Somebody might say this is a success. Somebody might say, no, 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 this is not quite um, for the expectations. It's a failure. This can happen even in a corporate world. You think you did it well, but during the performance appraisal, your manager might say, not quite, right? I expected more from you. So, so therefore, this word success and a failure is a very subjective term. So don't get caught up on it. You just give your 100%, right? And stay calm with whatever results come. You take it in a centered manner, right? And the other aspect of it is to look at success is if I'm able to do my work itself fully, 100%, that itself is a success. Ask ourselves, right? How many times we have gotten into some work only to see multiple obstacles, multiple, things, deterrents that come in the way, and we are not able to complete it, and then we feel I didn't do a good job of it. So the fact that, I'm able to do it fully, full-fledgedly per my satisfaction, my contentment of whatever was entrusted to me fully itself is a success. So one can gauge success in many ways, not necessarily by what comes as a result of that particular thing. So if we keep these kinds of, mindset, it really works. The other aspect that we talked about was, looking at the action results of an action as a divine offering, as a prasada, right? So when you take it as a prasada, you don't look at the quality, you just look at it as it's offering, it's a little bit of water, sacred, sanctified water. You feel blessed to be able to, drink that water as an offering from in a temple or in a puja or whatever else it is, right? And so for us, we have a lot of in our tradition itself examples to therefore not get caught up on all these things. The other thing to look at also when we see action as to be do an action as a blessing, if you look at all the skilled labor in India, right? People, let's say let's say somebody's doing a carpentry work. The first thing they'll do, or for example, you go to any workshop in any servicing place in a car, what we will notice is that they open the shutter. The first thing they do is, you know, pay the obeisance to the Lord, right? They may have may do a simple puja there, offer some coconut, offer some fruits, and maybe the tools that are used for that particular day for servicing or for carpentry, whatever it is, they do that. Why are they doing all of that? It's just blessed by the fact that today I could come. Today I'm able to do this work, right? And that mentality, right, of thanking before we start any work, for the blessing that I'm able to now do this work. May this go well today, right, as a prayer. It's deeply embedded, and that's something that we should all imbibe. And the other example that one can look at in this also is, when we, in our Navaratri pujas, etc., that we do, during those 9 nights. One of the days we spend time on, what's called as an Ayudha Puja, where we offer all the, you know, uh, tool sets, whether it's a hammer, whether it's a screwdriver, whether it is a pencil, whatever it might be, or a scissor that is used in the kitchen, that is used for homework, etc. All of that we offer. Why do we do it? Again, all of this is to, connect. Ah, is once you're in the space of you know that this is an offering, and for all people might laugh and look at it and say this is an inert object, right? A hammer or something. Not at all. That also has got life. That also has got units of energy, whether it's a hammer or whether it is a stool or whether it is a pencil. And it's doing a lot of work with using those, right? So we see the value of them and connecting that value of that to the divine is all what we are trying to do in all of these functions and, when we get started, etc. So keeping all this in mind is what I think we have to look at when we are talking about action. Hmm. The other thing he's looking at is he's using the word attachment in 48th verse. See, we'll talk about attachment. It'll come a lot in Bhagavad Gita, a lot of multiple aspects to it. But one simple way to look at it is what somewhere my mind is caught up on either a person or a situation, right? Something like that, right? So, or an object. One of these three things. Always it has got to do with that. So I'm caught up having certain expectations, etc. So, if you look at a household, the mother has a child, a baby child, and she has to get some errands done, and so she employs a nanny to come and do the work. This is just an example I'm just taking. Right? A nanny comes, she comes, does her duty fully well. She's a very respected nanny, gives her 100% of that work. She's got no expectations. For her, she just wants to take care of the baby, right? During the time she's given entrusted with the work. Absolutely no attachment. Mother, when she's taking care of that same child after the nanny has left, perhaps might be getting caught up with, the child should go well, grow well, and then maybe once he becomes responsible, he or she becomes responsible, he'll also take care of me when I get old. And so the mind gets into an aspect of some sense of attachment to that these things should happen. So here he's telling, this attachment word, right? Attachment comes from either from desires or even from these kind of mindsets, to be watchful of that. So that was on the 40th verse. Now we'll do the 49th verse here. दूरेण ह्यवरं कर्म बुद्धियोगा धनञ्जय बुद्धो शरणमन्विच्छ कृपणा फलहेतवः बुद्धियुक्तो जगाजहातीह उमे सुकृतदुष्कृते तस्मात् योगाय युज्यस्व योगकर्मसु कौशलम्. So here he's talking about, in terms of the spiritual growth, right? We go through karma yoga, we act. And while doing the action, right, there is a lot of cleansing that happens in the action. So here he says, once you do that, then you are more into deeper knowledge. Even in action with knowledge, it helps you to do the right action. There's no question about it. But then you go into a deeper knowledge about yourself, about the divine, and all of that, right? So he's just saying that yoga of wisdom is ultimately the path that all of us to go to, and that the yoga of action, which is the karma yoga, is just a step towards it. And here he says, take refuge in the wisdom. Wisdom is what? That knowledge, stanza number 47 is the wisdom, right? What is the wisdom there? Don't get feverish about the results, right? It's a all piece of knowledge. How can I apply it? It is my job to apply it. I have a choice whether I want to apply it or not. If I apply it, my mind will be calmer. If I don't apply it, I'll be agitated. The choice is ultimately mine. What do I want to do with it? So he says, take refuge in the wisdom, means apply that, apply it as much as possible. And he says, those people who are not caught up on the fruits, they will progress faster. Caught up is the word, right? Motive. So if the motive is to do the right action, this fruit I should get at this time, somebody else should not get this, blah, 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 right? That is a clear of attachment, without which you feel miserable. That is what, Krishna is warning us here about in this. So it is sort of a build-up from that 47 stanza, right? So this wisdom will come in multiple facets throughout Gita. And the wisdom will vary. Right now, it is all in Karma Yoga. The same wisdom will go into deeper topics as we go further and further. But for now, all the wisdom that word is referring to is how to apply the knowledge in doing the right action, in the attitude towards a particular action. Karma Yoga is all about the attitude. Now, what are those aspects of attitude? What he's referring to here? Not being feverish, not getting caught up only in the fruits, right? Getting more, seeing the action itself as a, as a way to learn, as to gain experience, etc., etc. So, buddhi yukto jagati ube sukrita dushkrite. So, what this does is when I am able to handle, success or failure better. Let's say, I didn't get what I wanted, right? I am initially deterred, but then I am able to come out of it. Similarly, when I get, if it comes exactly by my thing, which one would call it as a success. Again, we said success is not necessarily a, it's just a very subjective word in some sense. But let's just say success by my definition I got, right? I don't get too super excited, right? Because I've been through both. If I've been through both, right? People, especially who are in a business field, right? They have tasted both of them. They will not look at, I should always get a success when I put some investment into this, it should be like this, etc. They know there could be sometimes as a dip, sometimes it may go up. The question is, how do I handle, especially when there's a dip? That is where the wisdom comes in, right? That having that evenness of mind, centered mind. So once you have that centered mind, right? So how to get to that centered mind? Those things come later. But now he's talking about just, where we want to go. The goal in Karma Yoga is to get that centeredness, right? So I get centered whether my results of my action are, exactly in sync with what I wanted or not in sync. I'm still okay with it. So he just uses the word one, it says yoga karma kaushalam is in 50th verse, right? That simply means skill in action is yoga. Karma yoga. Here, when he says yoga, here's karma yoga. Skill means what? Not skill as in, physical skill of carpentry, etc. This is the mental skill. See, in all of this, there is a physical skill that's required for action. Without it, you will not do the work, right? If I have zero knowledge about carpentry, somebody giving me a job, I'll say I can't do it, right? So that's okay. So we are talking about somebody who is capable of doing that skill, whether it is physical skill or it's a leadership skill or talent, whatever. We are talking only about that. So here we are not talking about that skill. We are talking about the mental attitude towards using that skill in the action. Have to still use the skill. So that is what he's referring to. So moving on. Yeah, 52nd verse and 53rd is a chant now. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gacchantya yada te moha kalilam buddhirvyatati vishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya sutasya cha. So here he's slowly going into slightly more, slowly get into deeper topics on the 52nd and 53rd verse. So, so here is what will happen when you start doing, using this knowledge that we have, to do the right skill in action. What happens you know, success and failure, praise and, hatred, whatever it may be, in a balanced manner. I'm equipoised, right? I'm centered. Then what happens? Slowly you're able to evolve deeper, right? You're able to now, put your mind on other things. So if you look at, right, whenever these things, botherations come, they take away our whole day, right? We get eaten up by, why did this not happen, that happen? We call some friends, we call our relatives, this, that, etc. So it actually makes our day ineffective when we are caught up in something that didn't work out for us. A person, though, who has come to a certain stage where he's able to go a little bit beyond it, right? As is a bit more centered. He's not caught up, or he's not feverish about the fruits of the action has to be this or that, right? So he's slowly going beyond, even the so-called, this impression. See, when I don't expect a certain result, right? When let's say the results come and it's okay, I'm able to handle it, I'm not carrying that impression anymore. So when I'm not carrying that impression, right, it actually, you know, what happens, every impression is a cause for another effect, right? Another action, right? So that's the way the whole cycle works. Cause and effect relationship. That much we've talked about, right? Every action that you do has a cause. What is the cause? An impression that was carried from a previous action. And that action, if you go back to that, was actually a result of a cause that happened earlier. So it's like a cycle, right? It keeps revolving. And so I can get caught up so much on this cause effect thing that, mind is always about this happened, this happened. So whole day I'm bothered about, fulfilling this, fulfilling that, etc. because of all this residual impressions that are now so gone deep into the mind. A person who's able to get in this knowledge slowly is able to come out of this, delusion, confusion, mind getting distracted, etc., etc. And you're able to use your intellect much better. So this is a very important thing. See, when we look at it, right, we have what's called as a mind, we have what's called as an intellect. See, the mind is the one that actually is doing all the transactions with the outside world, right? I see something that I like, isn't it? My eyes see it. My mind now says I have to now experience it, whether it is a food or whether it is an object that I want to, get into my house, right? Um, so that's the way it works. Now, there is a filter in all of this. That filter or the judgment, this is right, this is not right. You should not do this. This is the intellect. And the intellect uses knowledge from the past experiences is to say, don't get caught up with this because you have done this before and it was not a good experience for you. So don't do it. No, it is like this, right? Somebody, let's say I was just reading today, people are now, the youngsters are getting caught up with the equity market instead of, you know, they're just putting a lot of money into stocks, this, that, etc., not realizing what it is. And so once I have had a taste of it, bad taste of it, it carries that knowledge. This is not for everybody. It's not for me. It creates a lot of tension, right? I should stay away from it. So the next time somebody says invest in this stock, so the intellect now says stop. The mind can still override it. And why does the mind override it? Because of the huge desire that it has to make money. But a person who is balanced, person who is equipoised, person who is centered, is able to use the intellect more powerfully. The moment the intellect says, yes, I'm out of here, man. I'm no longer interested in this. Even if a friend comes and tells you 100 positive things about doing whatever on the equity side, you say, not for me, not my cup of tea. I walk out of there. So that is the power that comes in, right? The intellect is now, the mind is not in delusion. Intellect is now taken over, your decision-making process. And then the intellect is taken over, a lot more power to your life. Because intellect is always based on some past experiences that is gained, right? And it's using it effectively now in the decision making of should I or should I not, right? Should I go to this place or should I go to this place? Should I, so those decisions we make every day, every second ourselves. And then say, who is governing the show? Is it the mind or is it the intellect? Right? You can look at the people, I don't know how many of you have dogs, right? So typically the caretaker of the dog, right? Or maybe a servant who takes the dog out, right? He's got a leash and he takes it. And depending on how good this person is strong this is and how powerful the dog can really push you, it'll run like anything because of its weight, because of its enthusiasm to be out, etc. It can run. So you have to be behind it. That leash is your intellect. The dog is the mind. Right? The dog you take you all over the place. But if as long as you have a strong hand with the leash and you're able to say, dog, stop here. I'm going to take you where I want you to take. You are not going to take me wherever you want to go, right? That is where the intellect comes in play. So using the intellect more, effectively is what happens when you are in this knowledge of Karma Yoga. um, so we will stand the 53rd verse. Shruti vipratipanna ye तास्यति निश्चला समाधावचला बुद्धिः तदा योगमवाप्स्यसि. Same thing is just here also. Using your intellect. So when you use your intellect, you can stand steady. You can stand pretty determined about your decision. And no matter who comes and tells you, even if it's your own mind coming and say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Or for that matter, anybody else. Why is he saying all of this? If you go back to the earlier part of this thing, right? What was happening to Arjuna? His mind had taken him to bonkers. He knew fully well why he was in the war field. So intellectually, he had the knowledge that, he came with all his bows and arrows and the ratha, etc., that he told, Krishna to chariot that thing. All of that he came with the full knowledge, awareness that this is a war that has to be fought. Yet, when confronted with whatever, emotions and other things, all that knowledge went for a toss. Right? And he started giving lecture to Krishna why he should not fight and all of that, started crying, gave up, and he put his bow and arrow down. Then, of course, he bows down and then asks for knowledge, and that's where we are. So this happens to all of us. So we are no different from Arjuna. We may not have a bow and arrow with us, but it has also happened to us many a times that we've been taken astray by certain things, certain emotions. And so when we talk about this knowledge helping, we use the word EQ quotient a lot of times in today's corporate world. EQ quotient. Not talking about IQ quotient, EQ quotient. What is the EQ quotient? Being able to handle turbulences, being able to handle challenges that come. Am I emotionally entangled into it? Or am I able to, handle it better? I'm maybe perturbed a little bit. I'm able to come out of it soon. That is what he's referring to here. So whether it is less emotional entanglement, mind all over the place, I'm able to balance, and my day is better, more peaceful. Ultimately, all of this is going to lead to a peaceful day, right? In all of this. And we have to do, right? Because day, morning to night, we're all doing some action or the other. Some actions might look mundane, some actions might look very important. But still, we're doing action, right? All of the time. So this thing, this Karma Yoga is very powerful, implication in how we do things. And more and more we start applying it, that much the better. So we now go to the 54th, sorry, 54th verse and 55th verse. So here, so far, Arjuna has been talking Krishna has been talking since the 11th verse. 11th verse is when, Krishna started giving the talk, about many topics. First time Arjuna has opened up again. And you'll see through this throughout Bhagavad Gita, right? So whenever Arjuna has a certain doubt, right? Initially, the doubt was very different, right? He was so pathetic in terms of where his mind was. Now he's more evolved. The question that he asked, we'll chant these two verses. Arjuna vacha चितप्रज्ञस्य का भाषा समादिस्तस्य केशव चितदीकी प्रभावेत प्रभाषेत किमासीत व्रजेत किम् श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रजहाति यदा कामान् सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान् आत्मन्येवात्मना तुष्टः चितप्रज्ञस्थितोच्यते. So first Arjuna asks the following stanza. Bhagavan starts replying, answering that question. Arjuna asks a very simple thing. So he's been hearing a lot about this, how to do an action, about wisdom, being in applied knowledge. So here he's asking a person who has, because in the last few stanzas he's talking about a person who's badly evolved, who's applying this knowledge, who's centered, who's balanced. So there is a word being used, Stitha Prajna. There's a word, it's a technical word, and it will be built upon the following verses, what it means. So he says, I want you to tell me now, who is this person who's called Stitha Prajna? He's asking a very simple question. How does this person walk? How does this person sit? How does this person interact with the world? Right? So tell me something about such a person. Right? So for us also, we should be curious, right? What is the Stitha Prajna word? So the Bhagavan says in the 55th verse, he says, a person, in a very nutshell, there are a lot of words being used here. In a nutshell, somebody who's able to, who's steady. Stitha means steady, centered, who is not deterred one bit by turbulences in the day-to-day life. It's a Stitha Prajna. He's not at all shaken, right? Everything, he's fairly evolved, let's put it that way. So obviously, you and I, we probably want to understand how you get there. That all comes up a little later. But here he's putting the foundation for things. One has to become like that person, firm-footed, steady wisdom, a person who has, self-desires that he may have, has come out of mostly, right? And then that person, he says, is now very steady in the usage of his knowledge. He uses knowledge everywhere. He uses intellect 100%. Such a person is a Stitha Prajna. And he uses the word, a person is completely casted off all his desires. So it's very hard to say, right? You might say, oh, it's not practical. So desires are going to be there, right? The question is, what does the desire do to you? Let's say I might have a very high level desire, a high level goal. So if I am caught up on fulfilling that desire and I'm losing my night's sleep to do that, then it's one thing. But if that desire is there, let's say, even all the saints and prophets, whoever you talk about, they all had a certain desire, right? To bring peace to the mankind. They would do a lot of writings. They would go all over the world, all over the place and give something. So yeah, their intent was to spread happiness, right? Whatever ways, right? So the desire thing, what it does is we have to see what the desire does to your mind. See, in everything that we do, I have a desire to serve, donate something, right? Or to donate food. That is a desire, right? Nothing wrong with the desire at all. What does it do to your mind is what we have to see. So desire itself is not the problem. What it does to you, how deeply it has gotten in, and anytime you have, some impressions that get carried by the desire, right? It has to be like this, it has to be like this, etc., etc. Then you're setting all these expectations that leads to attachment. When that attachment comes in, you're confused. It's like a one spiraling effect on top of the other. So here he's saying, this particular person, um, he's his mind, his desires are not. He's not trapped in the desire. See, even a desire to learn Bhagavad Gita, a desire is a very, enriching desire, isn't it? Nothing wrong with it. It's a desire. Now, later on in the Gita, it will say that even that desire you have to come out of. But for now, right, for those who are and have a desire, I should, get too much money or 10 more houses or this, that, etc. Right? Very different set of things. So that's what he's telling us here. So we'll chant one more verse here. दुःखेष्वनुद्विग्नमनाः सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः वीतरागभयक्रोधः स्थितधीर्मुनिरुच्यते. So one thing to keep in mind, right, in terms of the desires, etc., all of us, if we look back, right, as we have evolved, we've all come out of certain things, right? When we were all children at some stage, toddlers, infants, we used to play with toys. Do the toys entice us anymore? There are certain toy shops, there's a toy store world, and the kids, when they go there, you'll see they'll be running around everywhere, all excited because they see toys that they want to play with and they want the mom and dad to buy it and take it home. As you get older into youth stage, those toys don't entice you. Of course, we may go to different toys. Today, the toys are that are said is, a cell phone is a toy, or maybe, there are many other mechanical toys, etc., that child might get entitled as you grow. As you get into an adult, all these toys go on the sideline, right? So we've also evolved. So there is a way naturally that one can easily come out of these things. Did somebody say when you became 8 years old, now you should get out of toys? No, your mind automatically said, I'm out of the toys now. Yes. Or when you're a teenager, boyfriend, girlfriend, etc., would have been there. Once you, get when you grow up, that's all past, no longer. It doesn't bother you anymore. So naturally, the nature gives us ample opportunities or ample examples where we have come out of it. So it is not that difficult for us to come out of it. And I think as you grow even here, look 10 years back to now, you see that many things that you used to be enticed with no longer entice you. So we've all grown up out of these things. So the key thing in all of this is that, the number of desires as they start coming down slowly and steadily. And now your desire is of a slightly higher nature, right? Let's say I want to achieve this, where I want to do something big for the society, or I want to do something for the organization, or I do something for the NGO. That is also desire in some sense, right? But that is of a very different nature. And you don't get fully entangled in it and so forth. So so that's the way this whole thing works. We'll stop here today. That's also step out in a little bit. So I close now, and then we can all share our thought process, the learning today.